At the Han River, Jin-soo is about to self-delete, but first he thinks about how he ended up here. A friend promised him profitable returns on certain investment, so Jin-soo took a loan to participate. However, the friend disappeared. For a long time he didn't answer any messages, until one day he apologized because he couldn't give the money back. Jin-soo was only a grocery store worker and couldn't pay the loan, so he started taking different jobs to make up for it. Sadly, he was useless and could only get basic positions, which always paid little. Eventually the loan sharks were knocking on his door demanding payment, so Jin-soo ran away and lost them by mingling among a crowd filming a movie. Jin-soo gets ready to jump, but at that moment he gets some strange messages. A large sum has been deposited into his bank account, so in return he must get in the vehicle. A limousine arrives and Jin-soo gets in, but nobody answers his questions. Minutes later he's dropped at a theater, where he finds a table with money, a red envelope, and numbered cards. In the envelope there's a note explaining the situation. Jin-soo is now in the 8 show, where participants can exchange the time they're willing to waste for money. Food and accommodations are provided for free and money accumulates as time passes. The show will end once the allotted time is over or a participant dies. If Jin-soo doesn't want to participate, he can take the money from the table to take a cab and leave. If he wants to play, he must pick a number. After getting more messages reminding him of his debt, Jin-soo chooses number 3 and enters through the drapes. As the doors close behind him, Jin-soo finds a very fancy place with a clock that shows 24 hours. There are stairs going to 8 floors and he realizes he must go to the 3rd. The lock opens with the card, and inside he's disappointed to find an empty room with a screen pretending to be a window, cameras, and a chute. Inside he finds a uniform and a rule book. Every participant must change into the uniform and leave all personal belongings in the chute. To see how much money they've accumulated they can check the scoreboard. Food and shelter are provided for free. If he wants to buy anything else he can use the intercom and the payment will be deducted from his prize. Things that will be used outside the room must be bought at the main square. Participants must stay in their rooms from midnight until 8 a.m. and aren't allowed to block the cameras. Breaking any rule will make them lose half their money. The show begins at midnight and Jin-soo notices he only has a minute left, so he quickly puts on the uniform while the lights flash to indicate the show is starting. The scoreboard shows he's accumulated 30,000, quickly going up to 60 and then 90 as minutes pass. Jin-soo can't help standing in front of the screen and watching his money grow, making calculations of how much he'll get by the end. Suddenly he needs to pee and remembers he can't leave the room, so he uses the intercom to ask about a toilet but nobody answers. Soon he starts feeling cold and asks for blankets, only to learn they cost 1 million. Instead he buys some cardboard and newspapers to sleep on, plus a plastic bottle to pee in. The next morning Jin-soo wakes up to discover he's accumulated a lot of money. At that moment he hears another participant telling everyone to come out so they can introduce themselves. He enters the main square and discovers all the things there are fake. There's no bathroom either. The group also notices that the clock now says 36 hours instead of 24. They wonder how buying things in the square works and participant 6 decides to ask for cigarettes and a lighter. As the items appear in the chute, the time on the clock goes down. Yang runs to her room on the 2nd floor to check on her scoreboard and confirms her money is the same. It seems things on the square are bought with time, but the group realizes they can't spend too much or the show would over too soon and they want to win more money. They discuss what counts as essentials and in the end they buy 8 plastic buckets, toilet paper, pads, garbage bags, and cigarettes. Everybody grabs the buckets and runs to their rooms to relieve themselves. Moments later most of the group is starting to get hungry and Sarah from room 8 is surprised to hear this because she's already received 12 meal kits. They realize everything is delivered to the top floor and since they can't leave their rooms with objects, they must try to send the food down the chute. The group goes to Sarah's room on the last floor and are shocked to discover a huge room decorated by fancy things. Sarah bought a bunch of stuff because her money rate is extremely high. The others share their own rates and realize the lower the floor, the less they make per minute. A flashback shows Sarah arriving at the theater in a fancy dress and dropping her coffee on the carpet. She chose number 8 by chance and when she entered the square she tried jumping in the pool, only to hit her face on the fake water. In her room, she changed into the uniform and used her cigarette to burn her old clothes. She started to buy fancy things until her funds reached 0, but since her rates were so high after 1 minute she already had lots of money again. When they sent her the meal packs, she used all the water bottles to take a bath. In the present, the group checks out all the rooms and notice the one on the 1st floor is tiny. It belongs to Sang-gook, who chose it because he has a bad leg. Then the group sends the meal kits down the chute to the 1st floor and Philip from floor 7 comes up with a plan. Each of them will take 1 box each day, and if anyone wants more, the remaining boxes must be shared with the others. While everyone is eating, Sarah uses almost all the time to buy nice clothes. The group is furious and starts insulting her until she reveals that by going up and down the stairs, the time increases again. The participants start doing that without much organization but the clock still hits 0. Thankfully it immediately resets to 24. That night many participants buy something basic for their rooms, like a blanket or a portable potty. For the next few days, they spend all their hours running and going to bed exhausted. The food isn't enough to keep up this much exercise, so they make a plan. They divide the group in 2 teams of 4 and each team will run every other day, that way they get to rest. But also they only eat on the days they work. When Sang-guk can't keep up with the speed because of his bad leg, participant 6 grabs his hand and hurts it to force him to work. Chun-ja from floor 2 decides to help and runs in his place. The same thing happens 2 days later, and this time Jin-soo takes over. The others think Sang-guk shouldn't eat if he isn't working, but Chun-ja calls them out for wanting to starve a human being. As days pass, the participants buy more items for their rooms, but they're also accumulating trash. Feeling guilty about not being able to run, Sang-guk volunteers to keep all the trash in his room. One day Philip notices irregularities on the clock. The time didn't go up at all today during the running, yet while everyone is resting it gets 10 minutes. Sarah announces she won't run anymore and doesn't care about the others' complaints, saying she noticed the poor ones use the shared time to buy their necessities and that's not her problem. After running for 6 hours, they notice a time increase of 20 minutes and assume their day of work will catch up soon. The following morning they discover they didn't get any extra time and it's about to run out. The group immediately starts running again until Yang has a seizure. Moon Young from floor 5 is a nurse and recognizes it as epilepsy, so she mentions the medicine she needs. Chun-ja rushes to buy it but participant 6 stops her saying she won't die from a seizure so they shouldn't waste their last few minutes. This triggers a fight in which they all start hitting each other to make the purchase or stop the conflict. Jin-soo manages to escape the chaos and reaches the intercom to quickly ask for the medicine. Suddenly Sarah laughs and points at the clock, which now shows 40 hours. As the medicine appears in the shaft, the group looks at the cameras in the square and realize their fight counted as entertainment, which is what the show wants. A flashback then shows Philip's arrival. He thought carefully before picking number 7 and when he entered his room, he immediately did all the necessary money calculations to ask for a desk, pen, and paper to start taking notes about the show. In the present the group realizes how things work. Watching them figure out the system and running for time was entertaining at first, but it became boring after a few days and that's why they didn't get paid. Jin-soo tries doing a mukbang with some ASMR in his room, but it doesn't work. The group meets to discuss what to do next and agree to do a talent show, that way they can try a variety of things and see what works. Philip goes first and plays the recorder with his nose in a very impressive performance that gets them 24 hours. They agree to do the whole show the next day and discuss for how long they want to stay in the game. Since Sang-guk is the one that makes the least money they let him choose, and he explains he needs 1 billion. This means they'll need around 75 days. Before going to bed, they buy the props they'll need for their performance. However, Jin-soo can't sleep because he has no talent and doesn't know what to do. The next day the talent show unfolds. Moon Young sings and earns 10 hours, while participant 6 breaks some bricks and earns 15. Chun-ja also breaks some bricks and adds some high kicks, so she gets them 17 hours although she hurts her wrist in the process. Yang does some yodeling, which gets them only 2. Jin-soo tries to do a silly dance and only gets 18 minutes. Using a variety of props, Sang-guk shines as a clown and gets 30 hours. When it's Sarah's turn, she announces her talent as doing the naughty and participant 6 volunteers as her partner. This earns them 69 hours. The next morning Sang-guk points out they aren't running anymore so he would want to discuss the trash situation, since his room is full. After lots of arguing, they agree they'll vote on which room will hold the trash next. They get a full day to think about it, so they spend it talking to each other in secret to try to buy votes. The following day, they use paper to make the votes anonymous. Jin-soo and Sarah both get 3 votes, and after finding a blank one, they open the last vote which goes to Sarah. At first she plays along but later she locks her room so nobody can enter. The next day, she doesn't send the food kits to the other floors. Another flashback shows Yang's arrival. She was very indecisive about which number to pick and at first she took 8, only to then change it to 4. She bought the cheapest bedding and some post-it notes to put up messages that kept her motivated. In the present the group is starving and pleading with Sarah doesn't work. Moon Young even starts hallucinating. In the end Jin-soo and Yang volunteer to keep the trash because they did badly during the talent show. Philip informs Sarah about the new arrangement and she agrees to send food again after they let her buy a bunch of clothes with their shared time. Sometime later Sarah says they should play the king game as their next form of entertainment. Using 8 balls, they write 7 numbers and the letter K. Whoever gets the K is the king for 1 round and gets to tell the numbers of their choice what to do. Moon Young gets the K first and makes participant 6 and Philip hold hands. Next Yang makes Sang-guk and Moon Young share a chaste kiss. So far they've only earned 90 minutes, so they have to think better dares. When Sarah gets the king, she tells Chun-ja to French kiss Jin-soo, but she refuses. Instead Sarah tells her to fight participant 6. The fight begins and it's clear that Chun-ja has training because she keeps overpowering 6 over and over again. Unfortunately her wrist injury from the talent show starts hurting and 6 uses the chance to gain the upper hand. He brings Chun-ja down and starts beating her up with unleashed fury. The others have to cut in and stop him from killing her. This gives them 50 hours. Afterward the group discusses how to proceed with the game since some people are worried about their safety. Yang proposes a new rule: they can choose to opt out from a dare, but they'll be punished by getting tased. The game continues the following day and Chunja joins them regardless of her injuries. Sara gets to be king again and she asks Jin-soo to touch Moon-young under the shirt. Jin-soo can tell Moon-young is uncomfortable, so he opts out and gets tased. The group worries when they notice he's passed out and wetted his pants, but they admit it's necessary when they see they've earned 60 hours for it. The next day they keep playing and Yang announces she'll flip a coin. Participant 6 and Chunja must guess what side it lands on, and if they get it wrong they'll get tased. 6 guesses correctly but Chunja doesn't, so she gets tased and wets her pants as well. This gives them 48 hours. The following day marks a month since the show started. Sara gets king again and makes Chunja and Jin-soo slap each other until one surrenders. Since Chunja is very strong, Jin-soo gives up quickly and gets tased again. In the evening, Sang-guk calls Chunja and Jin-soo to his room to tell them the game is rigged. He realized the top floors are against them when he noticed Yang covering the coin to manipulate the result. They tell Philip about it, who asks them not to say anything until they find proof. Afterward Philip catches Yang manipulating the balls. She's been putting acetone on the K-ball to make it sticky and always find it in the box. He tells her that some people already suspect her, so she has to play nice if she wants to avoid consequences. The next day everyone is shocked when Sang-guk gets to be king. He orders Yang to toss a coin for 2 players and makes sure she doesn't cover it this time. Sara guesses wrong and Philip gets ready to tase her, but participant 6 pushes him to the ground and tases him instead, saying audiences like plot twists. Another flashback shows participant 6's arrival. He was eating and didn't care that he spilled ketchup everywhere. He picked a card at random and later in his room he happily undressed for the cameras. On his first night, he only ordered a pillow. In the present, Philip wakes up in Sara's room. Participant 6 explains that the way the world works is fine and since Philip is so smart he should be teaming up with the upper floors, not defending the losers from the bottom. Philip has no choice but to play along because he notices 6 has acquired a much stronger taser. Then 6 puts a cage on the intercom in the main square and destroys all the intercoms in the lower floor. Afterward the top floors announce that the lower floors will be the only ones working. If they refuse, they won't get food. If they earn enough time playing the games chosen by the top floors, they'll get coins to buy the meal kits or things from the square chute. 1 coin is equal to 3 hours. When Chunja tries to protest, participant 6 threatens her with a powerful taser. Sang-guk tries to attack them, so participant 6 kicks him down and tases Chunja when she tries to retaliate. Then 6 steps on Sang-guk's leg, which earns them lots of hours. Then Philip explains their new entertaining tactic. They've written different games on the balls and the lower floors must pick a ball to decide each day's game at random. Every game is designed to have a winner and the losers will be punished. Jin-soo grabs a ball and today's game is hide and seek but with a twist. Each player has a body part covered with leather before they run to hide, then the top floors search for them and hit them when they find them. A blindfolded Chunja accidentally hits participant 6 when she's startled, so 6 begins beating her up with such brutality that Philip has to stop her. Moon-young and Sang-guk quickly go down, so Jin-soo is the winner. The losers get their faces covered in tape and Jin-soo is blindfolded. After he's given a bat, he must spin around for a few seconds and then hit someone randomly. Sang-guk is the poor man who ends bleeding on the ground, and the game earns them 26 hours. This equals 9 coins, but they must write on a piece of paper how many they want. If the total surpasses 9, they'll get nothing. They don't get to talk to each other, so it's luck-based. Luckily everyone writes down 2 except Jin-soo, who only wrote 1. That night he doesn't eat, he only drinks water. The next day, the game is 20 questions. Sara will think of something and the lower floors must guess it asking only 20 questions. Thinking Chunja could rebel if she gets the bat, the other 3 guess wrong on purpose to let her win. Unfortunately since she's blindfolded, she ends up hitting Moon-young. Today their chosen numbers add to 10 coins, so they don't get paid. Phillips tells them that whoever leaves first will get 1 coin, but they refuse to move. Participant 6 offers 10 coins instead and Moon-young accepts it, claiming it's because of her diabetes. That night Jin-soo doesn't eat again and hallucinates the top floors appearing at his window to mock him. After a few days of sadistic games Sang-guk manages to hide a note in Chunja's and Jin-soo's pockets. His plan is to give a signal so the other 2 would go to his floor by using the delivery chute, which is big enough to fit an adult. The next day Philip whispers to Jin-soo that the chute makes noise. This makes them realizes that moving the chute will alert the upper floors. They decide to go ahead with the plan anyway and during the game Sang-guk says his stomach is hurting, which is the signal. That evening Chunja and Jin-soo go to the first floor. Sang-guk starts screaming in his room asking for help and the top floors come down to investigate. The door is open and participant 6 guesses the duo is behind them, so he surprises them and starts beating them up with a bat. A terrible fight begins on top of the poop bags and Sang-guk manages to bite 6's leg. Jin-soo opens the door to escape, however Sara is waiting with the taser. 6 takes it from her and gets ready to deliver punishment, however Philip yells they should move. It turns out he removed the battery from the taser when he was dining with the others in floor 8, and now Chun-Ja can easily punch 6 to knock him out. A new flashback shows Chun-Ja's arrival. Room 2 was the only floor left for her, and as soon as she got to her room she started working out. In the present, the lower floors tie the top floors up and Sang-Gook uses the chance to hit participant 6 a few times as revenge. Philip doesn't justify his actions and says he's sorry, so they decide to keep him free. This whole rebellion earns them lots of hours too. Afterward they lock up the top floors in their respecting rooms and use floor 8 as a communal room. Since they can't order food and drinks, they order a chemistry set to make alcohol themselves. That night they sit around a fire and pretend they have better food. Chu-Ja announces the show has crossed a line and wants to end it sooner, so she offers to pay the money Sang-Gook needs to complete the billion with her own prize. The group agrees and starts spending their time resting. They eat well, but they also make sure to feed the upper floors, who are still tied up and wearing diapers. When there are only 9 hours left, they say goodbye and wish each other good luck in life. However, in the middle of the night the clock resets to 45 hours. The lower floors check on their prisoners, but there isn't anything strange that they could have used to entertain. The next morning the clock goes up to 52 hours and everyone wakes up to hear Yang screaming. They check on her and discover someone pulled a tooth from her mouth. A suspicious Jin-Soo runs to participant 6 and removes his shoe to discover all his toenails are missing. Chun-Ja asks 6 why he didn't say anything and he tells her to ask her friends, making her suspicious of everyone. She demands a confession out of her friends, so Philip accuses her in return. Afterward a paranoid Chun-Ja locks up Jin-Soo, Philip, and Sang-Gook in their rooms, promising to send them food through the chute. She only lets Moon-Young out so she can take care of the upper floor players. Having to feed a bunch of prisoners takes a toll on Moon-Young's mental health and she starts hallucinating. She thinks Yang and Sara were freed, so she goes to 6 to give him the good news. 6 manipulates Moon-Young by telling her that Chun-Ja was the one who took his nails and will kill him soon, so Moon-Young hugs him. A flashback shows Moon-Young arriving in very nice clothes to the theater. She was very confused but she still agreed to play along. In the present, Moon-Young wakes up to discover the game is over and everyone is celebrating with food and drinks. However, Chun-Ja appears floating in front of her, heavily bleeding while threatening to kill her. A vicious fight blows out around her, revealing this is another hallucination. She's still hugging participant 6 and proceeds to free him. Afterward 6 frees the others and chaos takes over the main square as they proceed to punish the lower floors for their rebellion. Moon-Young only gets tied up and 6 kisses her to thank her. Then 6 buys a gun and 4 bullets and demands to know who took his toenails, but since nobody confesses he announces they'll play Russian roulette. Chun-Ja is lucky and doesn't get a bullet, so 6 beats her up with a bat. On Philip's turn, he gets shot in his leg. When 6 is about to shoot Sang-Gook, Jin-Soo gets an idea: they should buy the security camera footage to see who did it. Sara and 6 run to floor 8 and buy the footage to discover Sang-Gook took the nails and peed on 6's face. A furious 6 wants to kill Sang-Gook, but Sara doesn't want the game to end so she tases 6 and makes him fall down the stairs, breaking several bones. After grabbing the gun, Sara ties everyone up and locks them in their rooms, explaining she loves this place and never wants to leave. She buys the footage of all the rooms and watching the others being in pain excites her, so she gets some intimate time with her own hand. The next day Sara realizes that they've done all the kinds of violence they could, so they need to do something new to earn more time. She chooses sleep deprivation torture, meaning Sang-Gook, Chun-Ja, Jin-Soo, and Philip are tied to chairs with water bowls around their necks and tools that keep their eyes open. They're also forced to watch violent footage all day long while Yang and Moon-Young act as their caretakers. Soon the players are begging for freedom and apologizing for all their actions. Eventually Jin-Soo starts hallucinating and thinks the rest of the group is dancing around him. Sara spends her time watching the lower floors get tortured, and after a few days, she feels overwhelmed with emotion. She decides to make a big painting about it, but it's just her face. Still needing more, she buys a dog. Now Yang has to clean after the pet too, which gets on her nerves. The next time she checks on Sang-Gook, he apologizes for taking her tooth, but she doesn't care because she understands wanting money. Hearing this, Sang-Gook tells her it's possible to switch rooms. A flashback shows Sang-Gook was a clown with a sick daughter. Because he couldn't pay the hospital bills anymore, they kicked her out. Desperate to help her, Sang-Gook got insurance and then tried to self-delete in the street traffic to make it look like an accident. The moment got interrupted when the limousine picked him up. When he arrived at the show, he chose first floor because of his bad leg and used the intercom to ask if it was possible to change rooms, so the screen told him it cost 1 billion. This is why he's been asking for $1 billion all along. His plan has always been to change to room 8. In the present, Jin-Soo hallucinates he's underwater in a pool. Yang snaps him out of it and tells him Sang-Gook has a plan to bring down Sara. She doesn't sleep, so they only have a brief window of opportunity after her daily golfing session when she puts down the gun to take a bath. Since Yang is the one risking her life to do all this, she'll be choose rooms first. Jin-Soo agrees to help, and so do Chun-Ja and Philip. Moon-Young has a condition and Yang agrees to get her to join. In return, a grateful Moon-Young shares her story. She was married to a rich doctor who disrespected her and cheated on her. Moon Young ended up in the arms of a stranger that manipulated her to get tons of money from her, so this resulted in her husband suing her. Feeling bad for her, Yang hugs her. Unfortunately, Sarah sees the women bonding and later becomes suspicious when Yang gets excited about golf. Yang convinces her to play anyway, and while they're in the main square, Moon Young frees the others. Since they've been tied up for so long, it's hard for the players to walk, and Sarah's dog barks at all the movement on the stairs. Sarah decides to investigate, so Moon Young and Jin Soo hide on floor 6. As soon as he sees them, participant 6 starts making noise, so Sarah gets her gun ready before opening the door. When she's about to shoot, Yang knocks her out with a golf club. A new flashback shows that Yang worked as a valet girl and had to deal with many rude customers. One of those clients was a former classmate, who mocked her for her dream of being a K-pop idol and ending up in a parking lot instead. In the present, Sarah is tied up and the others cry because they're finally free. Moon Young reminds Yang of her condition and gets to order some medical equipment, which she uses to castrate participant 6. He used to be a great baseball player until he was kicked out of the team for illegal gambling and then became a car salesman. His boss scolded him for signing autographs during work hours and 6 ended up beating him up. Once Moon Young completes her work, Jin Soo says they should use Sarah's money to pay for the room change. However, Sang-gook says he's been saving for this moment and wants to do it with his own merit. Sang-gook orders the change on the intercom, but only an envelope appears inside the chute. It turns out a billion only gets them the instructions on how to make the change, and each room has an individual price. The higher the floor, the higher the price, and room 8 costs 340 billion. As everyone has a breakdown, a flashback shows that Philip was a scriptwriter whose work kept getting rejected for being too realistic. The producer told him people wanted to escape the harsh reality by turning off their brains with mindless entertainment, which Philip considered an insult toward the audience. Chun-ja worked in construction and one of her co-workers got hurt because their boss made him overwork. He needed surgery to survive and Chun-ja offered her savings to pay for it. In the present, Sang-gook announces he doesn't want to leave without the money for his daughter and grabs the gun. He ties everyone up and the hours go up while Sarah laughs. She used to be a famous artist whose career was ruined. Since nobody hired her anymore, she would show up outside fancy galleries to perform for donations, yet the rich people would only give her coins. Once all the players are tied to chairs, Sang-gook ties a rope from wall to walk on it as a special performance. When he's about to finish, he slips off the rope, but he holds on just in time and reaches the end. This gives him lots of time, so the others realize he fails on purpose as part of the show. Next, he jumps on the rope while pretending to be outside and goes high enough to hold on to a camera. Unfortunately, his weight is too much and the camera falls off, crashing on the ground and starting a fire. Sang-gook manages to hold on to the rope for a few seconds, but he slips and falls on the flames. Jin Soo, Chun-ja, and Philip struggle with their chairs until they finally free themselves and run to put out the fire. Then they free Moon Young, who says she doesn't have the equipment to treat such severe burns. Chun-ja tries to open the front door to no avail and Genus begs for help in the intercom, but they only get more hours. At that moment, Jin Soo realizes they must block the entertainment, so he and Chun-ja start destroying all the cameras until there's not a single one working. The door still won't open, but the chute does, revealing one more camera. Jin Soo runs to shoot it too and the clock reaches 0, which finally opens the doors. Sadly, it's too late. Sang-gook apologizes for everything and dies on the main square. Sarah thinks it's the perfect ending. Jin Soo runs out and finds the theater, where speakers play a recording of an audience clapping. A note in an envelope congratulates them for winning and promises the money will appear in their bank accounts. Then the big screen shows the words "the end." Afterward, the group leaves and learns they were inside for 2.5 months. Chun-ja tried to self-delete, but the tie she used broke and she failed. Jin Soo slept for many days and had terrible nightmares. Everybody had the money they won in their bank accounts, although Jin Soo only got half because of the broken cameras. Desperate for closure, Jin Soo holds a funeral for Sang-gook and puts big signs on the streets, hoping to get the other players' attention. Chun-ja, Yang, and Moon Young attend, but participant 6 only sends a wreath. Jin Soo tells the women that he visited Sang-gook's family, but Philip had found them first. He gave them money and told them Sang-gook is working overseas. Chun-ja admits she tried to do the same but couldn't find the family like they did. Moon Young gives them an update on Sarah. She destroyed an art gallery and was sent to prison. After the funeral, the group goes back to their normal lives. Meanwhile, Philip finally manages to sell a script called The 8 Show based on what happened. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.